All right, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rocha Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well. And also Shalom, and salutations to the brothers out there of the hopeful elect that are preaching this word in truth and sincerity. All right, so I'm the brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. Back with another lesson. And this lesson, that I'm going to be getting into, it's going to be somewhat of an impromptu lesson, just flowing in the spirit, a lesson that was not well prepared, but, because not every lesson have to be, well prepared, sometimes it's just good to flow in the spirit, right? And what inspired this lesson was a video that I ran across, on Instagram, right? And I pulled up the full thing on YouTube, right? And this video is basically going into young children, it's called the doll test, right? Where they have a doll that's different shades, a so-called white doll, and then varying from the shade or the color tan to the color what they call black, man, or dark skin to the darkest skin, right? And then they had children there, and they asked the children a series of questions. For example, who's the brighter child, who's the smarter child? And the children would point to the different shades of drawn dolls that are there, right? But the reason why that inspired this lesson is because, for one, we have to understand that Esau Edom, the so-called white man, the man that's currently in power, what he's done is that he's programmed the whole world into basically thinking that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are a bad people, right? He shed a negative light upon the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You see? And that's a part of prophecy. It's written in the Bible that, the so-called white man would basically be an enemy to us, man. And that's a part of him being an enemy, portraying and painting us as something that's evil, right? Because when you go into the video, the majority of the so-called white kids, when the question, who's the stupid child was asked, they would point to the darkest shade, but just showing you that's an example of the programming of the so-called white man, Matter of fact, let me get a real quick precept. This is the book of Psalm 62 and verse 4. It says, "They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies, they bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly." Salah. Right? So this is concerning the so-called white man, right? And there's a reason as to why I refer to him as so-called white, because that's also another, thing that they've used to program the minds of the people, right? The concept of colors, white and black, right? They're known as white and we're known as black, which those two colors, our actual skin are far from those colors, man. for example, when you take a look at the so-called white man, he's not literally white, right? Because he's red. Why? Because his skin is translucent. The blood shows forth through his skin, making him red, right? He lacks pigmentation. He's not white because white is the color of the background of the blue letter, man. Not the blue one, but the white. That's white. And there's nobody on the earth that's walking as white as that, man. You see? And then us, he puts the term black upon us. But there's nobody as black as black on the earth, man, that walks around black to that extent, you know? Because when you take a look at the so-called Negroes, they're a caramel, type of color, man, for the most part, light to dark, but not black. You see, but that concept of colors, the so-called white man has used to his advantage, right? And why is it to his advantage? Because when we call them white, what comes to mind? Psychologically, the color white is something that symbolizes purity, innocency, no harm, intelligence, and so on and so forth. Everything positive is associated to the color white, right? You know, white angels, angels dressed in white, things like that, right? And that's to his advantage. That's because people look at him as all those positive things, you know? But he's not. He's actually the opposite, right? And then he puts black upon us, which has to do with everything negative, man. Void of light, lacking understanding, stupid, and so on and so forth, right? So those two things he's used to his advantage to further continue his rulership, man, and for people to look at him as a god, right? While they shun the true gods, which are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? So that's a part of him casting us down from our excellency, from our excellent state, because what's something that's excellent about us is also our pigmentation, our skin, because when you go into it, that's a defense against the sun. That's a natural, God-given defense against the sun and different things out there, man. You know? Right? It says they only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. Right? And what's a part of the lie is that they're white and we're black. They're smart and we're stupid. That's a lie. Right? Because they're the stupid nation. They're the dumb nation. They're the nation that lacks understanding. What proves that? The earth. Take a look at the condition of the earth today. Is it ruled by somebody that has understanding? Is it ruled by somebody that's smart? No, man. Because it wouldn't be in the condition that it's in right now. Right? The people depressed at an all-time high. The food polluted. The water polluted. The air you breathe is polluted. Right? That's not a kingdom that's ruled by somebody that has understanding. Because somebody that has understanding and somebody that's smart is going to understand that, okay, natural things such as food and water, I shouldn't temper with, right? But the so-called white man went there, man. Showing you how stupid and void of light he is. right? And that's why, they're known as the Edomites, because that word omit is also an Edomite, right? Omit. And when you go into that word omit, it's to take away, so they're supposed to be taken away. They're not supposed to be here, man, because they're set up for destruction and destruction only, right? So let's go from there to the book of Ecclesiastes. So Ecclesiastes 10 and verse 7. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start at verse 5. It says, "There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place." Right. So this evil that's seen almost appears to be an error, like a glitch, in the matrix. Something that's like, yo, what happened here, right? And that's the case with the current rulership. It appears to be an error because the so-called white man is not supposed to be ruling. All right, it's supposed to be the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because they, were given the spirit to rule, beginning with our Lord Yahweh Shai. They're the fit rulers to sit on the throne, right? And the so-called white man, he's not the fit ruler, right? Verse 6, it says, "Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place," right? So what is folly? Folly is foolishness. It's set in great dignity, meaning it's exalted, it's set in great honor, right? And we can see that in this current kingdom, that a lot of foolishness, is honored, right? And that's mostly in the West, right? America, America. You see? And scriptures also speak about how that whoever is ruling a particular place, the subjects under him would take onto his spirits, right? Onto his spirit, take onto his vibration, right? And that's the case with the so-called white man and his current kingdom. And he's a fool, right? Hence, folly, for foolishness is set in great dignity, man. It's highly honored. It says, "And the rich sit in low place." The rich being who? The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. How we rich? We're rich in spirit. Verse 7, "I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth," right? So things have been turned upside down because a servant is ruling. A servant is sitting upon a horse. A servant is in power, right? And a prince, he's walking on the ground as a servant, man. And who is the prince? The prince is the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. And that servant will be the so-called white man, right? Yeah, man. So I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to say, call hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Wachak, once again, double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and elders of Great Millstone. Until next time, Shalom.